Hi everyone. So I can't believe that we are already done with this whole class. Um, I know I've taken a lot out of it, and I'm very happy that I enrolled. Being a political science major, I don't really get to take classes like these. So yeah, I guess I'll just get right into what I've learned in the past 4 weeks. Um, so also I've got a lot that I want to talk about, so I'm gonna really try to just wrap it up quickly as best as I can. Um, so for module one, we talked about the complexities of the identities that people in the LGBTQ plus community have, identities of women of color, and then obviously like the intersections of those two things. So before this class, I had heard of intersectionality once, and that was actually because of a project I was working on last semester. But after diving into all of these different kinds of, um, articles and books and all these different things that we've utilized in this course, I really feel like I've got a better grasp on how each identity of a single person may impact their lives, and then how that impacts us as a society as a whole. So I believe that we completely lose these whole experiences and contributions from the experiences that people have within those intersections. So I think that it's like a really huge detriment to our society to not be acknowledging or recognizing the complete experiences, oppressions, and lives of other people. So, I mean, like, things as dramatic as being like a bigot and an obvious racist, or even as subtle as microaggressions. Like, these things shut us off as individuals and as a society to the contributions of people of color, of women of color, people in the LGBTQ plus community, but then especially those contributions of queer women of color. I think that it's only after we thoroughly acknowledge people's differences and the ways in which they may be oppressed, whether it's like from one part of their identity or as a whole person. Once we acknowledge that, like, those experiences and those contributions are brought into every single aspect of our lives, whether that's like art or music, literature, dance, like whatever it is. So it's only after we learn how to be a more tolerant society in general and like provide spaces for these people, and not even that, because it sounds like they need allowances, like they need whatever majority group to give that to them, where there's so many that are just like taking that because they know that's what they deserve also. Um, but I think that's one, like, as soon as we do that, we can really start living up to our true potential as like an entire civilization. Yeah. And then also in this module, we discussed and focused on like the whiteness in feminism and the whiteness that like infiltrates the LGBTQ plus community, um, and how that just like further silences those people. Like, they're already being marginalized for one thing, but then within a community where they should feel safe, their perspective and their entire experience is not being acknowledged because it's focused on someone whose skin color isn't the same tone as theirs. So I thought that was pretty interesting. In Module 2, we discussed issues of like white passing, and the pressures in society to like the white standard, but then also the heterosexual standard. Like, our entire society is geared towards basically like white, cisgendered, middle class men, and then within those communities, or within like the communities where people don't experience that same kind of thing, there's even further marginalization, like I said before. I also really loved this module because I really got to see the influence of art, music, literature, and all of those things, and the impact representation has on all of us, and the influence it has to voice like the concerns and the struggles of marginalized communities. So the website project was super fun for me to explore all of the different influences that queer women of color have in athletics and dance and poetry and various forms of music and all of the different awesome things that everyone had to contribute. So really enjoyed that. For Module 3, we discussed the influence and authority that whiteness has to take over the LGBTQ plus community and feminism. So I feel like even within traditionally marginalized groups, the people that belong to those communities like don't even have like there's just like this lens of, you know, there's like a white lens or a male's lens in life, you know, like the things that we experience are through these lenses. So in the LGBTQ plus community, the voices of gay white men are really acknowledged and heard within that community. And even like a transgender white woman has a totally different experience than a transgendered black woman, you know, and just adding that piece of ethnicity on top really, I mean, like can change the whole game for that person. So we also talked about the ways in which marginalized communities feel more comfortable being around those that share similar experiences. So, you know, having a lesbian black woman, she will tend to feel more comfortable in circumstances where there's other lesbian black women. Like, yeah, on a given day, she might feel comfortable with black women or lesbians given the circumstances, but like if those two intersections are lucky enough to be in like her same realm, she's like totally gonna flock to them because that's where she feels safest. So I think that's pretty representative of a lot of people of color in the LGBTQ plus community. I have an example of my sister who is a bisexual little Chicana, and just watching her whole experience through college. And she went to a university that was very, very predominantly white. Just by her friend groups and like the social interactions that she chose to be part of, she 100% would always choose to be around people that were also, you know, LGBTQ plus and of a certain kind of ethnicity, because those are people that just could share her same experiences. So with coalitions, we're better able to transcend these limited perspectives by being more perceptive, that our experiences in whatever communities we belong to, we have to acknowledge that like our experiences don't transcend the experiences for everyone else. You know, being a white gay man, your experience is not going to be the same for a person of color or a female, you know, person of color in the LGBTQ plus community. I think it's really important that we start recognizing that our experiences are not unilateral. For Module 4, I thought it was really interesting to learn, or I guess maybe to just recognize that the typical theories that we accept do not represent the queer or people of color communities very well at all, and we need theories that better acknowledge the experiences of marginalized communities. So we talked about queer studies, and this theory centralizes on diversity within and among people of color in the LGBTQ plus community. And then this theory also contradicts the term queer, because queer has failed to address race or to acknowledge contributions by non-white and non-middle class people in the LGBT community that combat homophobia and oppression. So the next idea I thought was very interesting is the idea of two-spirit and the uniqueness and complexities of natives in the LGBTQ plus community. And then this is an umbrella term for those people. So Two-Spirit risks erasing difference, like the term queer, but it is meant to be fluid, inclusive, and ambiguous for those reasons. So that is my takeaway from this class. I really appreciated that I felt like the class was focused on an asset-based perspective of contributions of marginalized communities. I think too often the only times, or more than often, when we're talking about queer people of color, women of color, queer women of color, I don't know if I just said that, we're only discussing it under a narrative that addresses the disparities that they experience, the oppressions that they experience, and that is incredibly important always. But I've also super appreciated the fact that we have acknowledged just as much the beautiful and unique ways that these people contribute to a fuller society. So thank you.